Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here. Of course, I accepted, and very soon after I accepted, I sort of freaked out a little bit. I thought, what the hell am I going to say that's going to be of any interest? Well, then I thought, calm down, Michael. You're an Irish macroeconomist. There's plenty of stuff to talk about. I mean, I could easily just talk about cricket. But I decided, actually, rather than talk about all this stuff about banks and bonuses and all the sort of usual stuff that you might expect a macroeconomist to talk about, what I want to talk about is teaching and learning, and there's two subtitles to it. One of the subtitles is what you would say if you're a student, and what I'm going to talk about is the student reaction of, you know, why are my lecturers so hard to talk to? Why are they so difficult to get access to? Why are they such rubbish teachers? And then on the other side, from the academic side, you have the academics who are sitting there going, oh, why are my students so lazy? Why are they so unmotivated? Why are they so annoying? And it's that kind of pulling apart that I really want to talk about. So here's some quotes. It comes from the Economics Network, which I'm on the advisory board of. It's a wonderful organization. It's dedicated to try to improve teaching at all, not just the Economics Network does it for economics, but there's ones for all subjects at third level. The Economics Network do this survey, and in it, they ask, at one stage, students, and here's some quotes, as I alluded to, giving that feeling. They also ask lecturers. And here's some of the lecturer quotes. You know, basically, you have lecturers who sort of sit there wanting to do research, and the students seem like a bit of an annoyance or an irritant to them. These surveys have been done many years, and these are very consistent views, but if anything, they've been getting worse over time. I don't know if we'll find out if they're going to still get worse, because actually the Economics Network is not going to exist from September thanks to funding cuts, but that's another argument. So here's the problem as I see it, and this picture is actually inspired by those of you who are fans of The Office TV show. This is from the Training Day episode, but I edited for my own use. So we have in the middle an institution, and the institution is holding two doglies. At one end is the students, and they're really racing towards getting the good teaching outcomes. Well, at the other side you have the academics, and they seem to be pulling in the other direction, trying to get the good research outcomes. And this seems like, you know, in the middle you have, of course, the institutions want to keep everyone happy, but the leads just aren't long enough. So this is the challenge. But rather than just get emotive about it and have me stand up as an academic and say, oh, research is key, and students sit there and go, oh, no, we don't do teaching, I want to think about this. I'm an economist. I want to put a framework on it, and I want to think about it in a sort of systematic way. So let's think about what the duties of an academic are. Well, they're juggling. There's three balls they typically have to juggle. There's a red ball, which is research. There's a green ball, which is teaching. And there's a black ball, which is administration. And basically the job should be to juggle as much as they can. Now, in a world in which it does not matter, you know, the payoffs are going to be proportional to the size of the ball, and dropping the ball is bad. In a world where all the balls are the same size, you should just juggle them all equally, and it doesn't matter which one you do the tricks with. You just juggle them. But is that the world we actually live in? Well, I don't think it is. I think this is the world we live in. The red ball is big. Research is what's going to determine career progression for most academics at top research institutions. So naturally, if I'm confronted with this juggling act, you know, it's a lot easier to get high rewards if I put the green and the black ball in my pocket and just have fun with the big one. So that's the challenge that we're basically dealing with. So again, that sort of gives you an idea of the incentives, and of course we respond to those incentives. That's a kind of obvious thing. It's a key principle of economics. And if you want to have a laugh at economists, have a look for the stand-up economist, because he makes fun of all of our principles, but it's worth looking at. But I'm going to take this principle as an important one. People will respond to incentives just like students will. Another key framework in economics is cost-benefit analysis. So if I want to think about this question of how we can get academics to put more effort into their teaching, well, I think about what are the costs and the benefits. So what are the costs and benefits of good quality teaching? Well, the costs are easy. They're mostly time, preparation time, delivery time, which actually regardless of if you deliver a good lecture or a poor lecture, you still spend an hour in front of them. It's just you have more bored people in the audience. And post-class time, which is the office hour, answering the emails of the confused and previously bored students, and also the huddle that amasses in front of you at the end of class when everyone wants to know what went on in slides 1 to 57. Benefits, well, I love teaching. I really enjoy it. I do get a warm, fuzzy feeling from teaching well, from engaging with students and seeing them grow. But not everybody has that sort of professional pride necessarily, that same warm feeling. You may think that promotion, you may think that, yeah, the best teachers will be promoted more quickly. You may also think that prizes, as was mentioned, I've won a few. My first prize I ever won was from the LSE. I got this letter. And I thought, wow, I won a prize. It's amazing. And the prize said, you have won the princely sum of £50. Brackets, subject to tax and national insurance. So, you know, the benefits, actually, there are question marks next to all of them. Are they really that high? So, well, it's going to be tricky. But this, at least, framework gives us a way to think about how we can change the system. We have the stakeholders, the institution, the lecturers, the students, and we have the costs and the benefits, and we can think about it in that way. So let me start with my first potential person to change. That's the universities. Why don't universities just change the size of the big red ball, which has floated away somewhere? Why don't they change it? Well, actually, that's what lots of these academics say. This academic says, look, if you don't change the benefits, I'm just going to keep pushing my research articles out. That's the rational, sensible thing to do. So then the questions are, well, why don't they prioritize teaching? Why don't they just force academics to be more available? Like, tell them you have to have 20 hours of office hours, not the 2 that you have. Why do they think that research matters to students? Well, let me answer these each in turn. First answer, well, they don't want to give too much time to teaching because it will hurt the department's research output. And if they hurt research output, it hurts reputation. And if it hurts reputation, it hurts budget. What about, why don't they force academics to be more available? The answer's easy. See problem 1. Why do they think research matters to students? Well, actually, there is a reason. Because actually, you want Warwick, or whichever institution you're at, to be highly ranked, to have the best people, to have the advisors to governments. You want them because that's the reputation that will help get you your foot in the door, that will do all these things. So, of course, when you're here, you want them to be putting all their time into teaching. But in the years before you get here, and in the years after, you wish they just did research so that you had the degree from the top places. And you may think that the academic landscape is changing, and it is changing, and you may think, fees, that's definitely going to put more emphasis on teaching. And that's in the press a lot. But what's not in the press as much is there are also funding cuts on the research side, which makes the remaining funds more competitive, and it makes it more important that you have the top researchers. So it's not obvious which way it's going to change. How could they? You know, what can institutions do? Well, one very simple thing, and I think actually the department I work for does this very well, is they have people who organize it very well. They have professional administrative staff, and what that effectively means is my black ball can go to someone else to juggle. So now I'm just left with 2 balls to continue juggling. My life's a bit easier, and you know, hopefully then I get more time into the green teaching ball. What about lecturers? So the other question is, why don't all lecturers just put more effort in? Well, that's a bit of a naive solution, right? We know they've already seen the incentives, and they've reacted to them. So we can't expect them just to change. We need to either raise the benefits, and we already saw it's difficult to do that, or we have to lower the costs. And I can see the cogs in your head going now, lower the costs. Surely lower costs means less good teaching. That can't be a good thing. We need high-cost innovations, and there are loads of them. Clickers in class, you know, games, all this type of stuff. Isn't that the future? Well, these are high cost. Will they be taken up by academics? I wanted to know, so I did an experiment. People didn't know I'd done this, and some of them are probably in the audience. I took some of my first-year students, following the sort of advice of Nobel Prize-winning physicist and passionate teacher Carl Wyman, and I tried to be scientific about this. I split my first years. Some of them did game sessions, and some of them did normal chalk and talk type approaches to teaching. And I wanted to see how, you know, I measured them before they went in, what they knew immediately after they went in, and what happened by the sort of 6 weeks later in an exam. What did I find? Well, these experimental game type sessions, which was much higher cost to run for me, was actually very motivational and engaged with some of the students, but not all. Some people aren't motivated by games. The games were excellent at driving home certain simple key messages, but often at the cost of other messages, which were also important but not key to that game. And what I also lost was the ability to get across fact mastery or definitional type stuff. So what's my bottom line? High cost, not guaranteed to work, use with care. So what can they do? Well, my approach, I always call it coaching economics. The reason is because I was a sports coach long before I ever taught at third level. I have top-level basketball qualifications. I have FA coaching badges. Coaching and academic teaching are very similar. They have similar outcomes. And what's one thing we know from coaching is that watching someone do something doesn't make you better at it. If it did, English pubs would be full of top footballers. So think about this and trying to take it to the world of academia. What does a good coaching session do? Well, it breaks things down. It encourages active learning. It gets them doing, trying, experiencing, engaging with the stuff. You fix faults that are common. You drive home big picture. You encourage. There's lots of transferable skills you get when you go to sports training sessions. There's lots of transferable skills you get at university. But you have to sometimes drive them home, make people aware of them. So really, my coaching economics philosophy is to take these very simple, very low-cost solutions and apply them in teaching with the hope of getting better outcomes. So here's some low-cost teaching improvements that people can easily adopt. Put in a bit more preparation time at the start. Sometimes I've given lectures where I talk for 20 minutes, and for 40 minutes they're working in groups, bouncing back and forth, into groups, out, in, out. That type of thing means I do less actual delivery. I do less talking. I'm less tired afterwards. If I teach well, less people come to my office hour. I can sit there writing my geeky research papers. Expectation management is the key. We have a very good young guy, Robbie Akralov, joining the department in September. And he has this paper where he basically shows that people get angry when their expectations aren't met, even if their expectations were initially sort of too high. So sometimes you have to manage it. Sometimes you have to tell them, we're not going to be, holding your hand through this educational process. When you do talk to students, if you relate material to their interests, if you know they're into football or cricket or music, whatever it is, make it real for them. It'll make it more interesting. Persist with this active learning. Often when I first ask questions in a class or something, what do I get? You get what you expect, a room full of silent, blank faces. Or actually, the really normal reaction is, eyes down to page. If he can't see my eyes, he can't ask me the question. You've got to persist, because eventually they realize this is the new environment. It's just because it's different. Once they notice the new environment, they love it. They get going. Realize that they lose concentration. This idea of me talking consistently for 55 minutes in a lecture, it's not going to work. I've got to pause sometimes. I've got to tell little stories, tell jokes, get them laughing, give them a chance to get back on board. 18 minutes is the time given a TED. That's probably optimal. I've got 4 of them left. I should move on. But there's a third person involved in this relationship, and that is the students. And I do think that students also have a key role to play. Education is not something that's done to you. Despite saying things like, I was educated at Warwick, it is not like plastic surgery. If you want to lose weight, yes, you can have liposuction, but that's not what education is. Education in weight loss is equivalent to gym membership. You get access to the machines, you have someone show you around on the first day, they show you a kind of type of thing that works, but it's up to you to pick yourself up by the love handles and put in the hard, sweaty hours. As well, the other thing that students struggle with, so not all, but some, and it's a big bone of contention, is this transition to from secondary school, which is a much more spoon-fed educational model, to a very independent third-level situation. And for anybody like myself who's a parent of a young child, you know that weaning is a very messy process. Here's the proof. This is a picture of my daughter. My wife didn't want me to show it for 2 reasons. One, because in it my daughter looks like a boy. But second, because she thought it was condescending. I don't mean it to be condescending. I'm not comparing students to babies. Weaning is an important developmental step, as it is becoming independent in your education. So what does that mean? You need, as students, to engage much more with each other, to learn as much from each other as you do from the lecturers most of the time. You've got to prepare more. Students in the iPad generation don't take notes anymore. And they come to my office with their lecture notes and say, I don't understand this. I say, well, I know, I put like a single bullet down. Of course you don't understand it. All the detail was what I said. And say, oh, I can't remember what you said. Well, I remember when I was at university, it wasn't that long ago, I would write down what they said. You're taking notes, you're good. So what does it mean? Well, it means if they do that, then I can take part of the green ball and put that into my good student's hands. So now I've just got the red ball to play it, but when he's bored, he can throw it back or he's confused, and I can answer his very precise, very well thought out, very considered questions. I read the book, I spoke to my friends, I did this, I get this step of the logic, but I fall down here. I'm going to be more than happy to deal with that because I know what he's put in, I know what's, where his problem is, and I can address it easily. I don't understand lecture 4 is not a very helpful opening gambit in an office hour. Let me spend my last minute just talking about a point about what is a great teacher. Course scores don't always capture it. You don't want to be a teacher who gives out the easy questions. I could have a very easy course. Right? I could just give out the answers in advance. Everyone gets a first. Everyone's really happy with me. You learn diddly squat. Just like a good sports coach, sometimes you've got to be the hard ass. Sometimes you've got to be the guy who pushes them. I do things with my money and banking students in second year, and they hate it. I mean, they tell me they hate it. They tell me, and then they write my reports at the end of the year, we hated it. And that's fine. I do it because I want them to experience these things, and I think they're good for them, and they do it in a risk-free environment. And lots of the time, students don't realize until they've left that was the benefits they were getting. You look back and you go, you know what? That easy course was rubbish. But that one that really pushed me, made me do group work with people who were rubbish, didn't turn up to meetings, had to do that was what I wanted. So let me conclude with my picture. And I'm going to steal a line from our first wonderful speaker. And that is, my solutions are low cost, they're easy, but if we all work together, we can all achieve more, and we can all win. I'll stop there.